The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
The Confederacy never had the head of the body removed from it. And if you know history when it comes to American policies with drug lords, mafia bosses, military leaders, when we go in, we take the head. The body bumps around a little while, and then we pacify. Japan, when we dropped the bombs, they surrendered. And then we went in, pacified them. Now they selling us some of the top brand TVs in the world. Germany, Adolf Hitler. The man wanted to start a blonde-haired, blue-eyed race of supermen. We went in, destroyed him in a bunker. My mother went to Germany a few years back, and she said, "Son, it's so many black people in Germany, it almost looks like America."
Welcome to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. That was 4 years ago. I just got this podcast started, and I was just diving into politics. I've been about politics for a long time. I always found it fascinating because I like to read, and now since I'm in my truck, I do my audio books and listen to the news and music and stuff like that. But they never cut the head off the snake of the Confederacy. And I'm gonna leave a link to that show in the description, because like I said, that was 4 years ago. I saw it coming. I was looking at the news the other day, and we was talking about Donald Trump going to trial and saying he has presidential immunity. Now, he's not going to make the next presidency run. They're going to put a stop to that. But I'm going to talk about Nikki Haley, who I predict this time is going to go up against Joe Biden. Now remember, when you watch that show and some of my older stuff that I did the first year that I started this podcast, you will notice that a lot of my predictions came true about Joe Biden, about Donald Trump, because I like to study the history on this stuff. And the history on it is that, like I said at the intro, we never cut the head off the snake. Turn that down so we can so we can listen, so you can hear a little better. You see, that whole 14th Amendment thing that they got going on, where president's immunity and all of that stuff, Nixon strained it when he did what he did. But the reason why they put certain things in that Constitution is because after the Civil War, they never hung these men. They never put them in prison for the rest of their life. These men and women who started the first major insurrection, the first Civil War, were locked up for a year or two. All the heads of state, all of the people that started their own government, they got locked up for like 2 years, and they were forced to sign papers saying they would never take up arms against the United States, and they would never get back into government. The problem with that is they went back home as heroes. And then you start seeing these statues popping up everywhere, Confederate statues. They lost. They don't supposed to have a Confederate statue of them. They're insurrectionists. Basically, they rewrote history. And when I talk about Nikki Haley, well, put it this way. Let me go back for my people like me to break it down for you. The bigots of today is not the same as the slave masters. Okay? I'm finna break this down for you so you can follow it Understand it and look it up if you want to look it up. The biggest of today, the vast majority of them forefathers came across the ocean. They were immigrants themselves, but they were white immigrants. The Great Depression on down, all of the men and women who gained wealth in this country on the backs of cotton, slavery, wheat, corn, and things like that, a lot of those major families lost millions and lost a lot of power when the Great Depression hit. Who stepped in those shoes? The white Italians that was already here. The white Germans, like Donald Trump's great-grandfather. Nikki Haley, her family's not originally from America, but they white people. You got somebody like Candace Owens. I know she's black, but she's a Latina. She's an Afro-Latina. She's not originally from America. That's why she identifies so closely with white people. Don't let the skin tone fool you. These are the bigots that is in power now. They've taken on the flag of the Confederacy. I want y'all to understand how this is working. We beat them. We beat the Confederacy. Okay? Years and years go by. They were still preaching that hatred to their kids and pushing their kids into politics. Okay. The Great Depression hit. World War I, World War II. A lot of the original white bigoted slave owners wiped out. The fortunes wiped out. Bloodlines wiped out. The people who are white that took up the banner were these Italians who went out to California, started MGM Studios and stuff like that. The Italians and the Jews and the Germans that went out to Las Vegas and opened up all these casinos. You know, you hear about Trump all the time and his father, big moguls in New York, trying to deny black people an opportunity to get housing. These people are white people, and they were born here in America, but their roots don't go all the way back to slavery. Understand how this is working. I'm going to put it to you another way. Jesus was a Jew, right? He was Jewish. He was the king of his people. Christians took the teachings and the name of Jesus and started Christianity, which is now the biggest religion on the planet. It even overshadows Islam now. Same thing that's going on with these people. When you look at Marco Rubio, the other guy, Ted Cruz, these people are not, they white, but they're not the former slave owners. They're not the people that enslaved. They got bigotry. Look at the guy that's running against Trump right now from Florida. That guy's not he's an American now, and he's a white Latino, but his people didn't come here across on them slave ships. The people who have taken up the banner of bigotry in this country are second and third generation foreigners themselves. This is odd, and it's kooky. It's odd and it's crazy, but I seen this coming. Let me go further into this. I want y'all to go back. Like I said, I'm gonna leave the description of the show.
So you know, I can give you examples of mafia bosses and mafia syndicates where the FBI go in, incarcerate the top head, the mob leader, and 2 or 3 of his lieutenants, and the rest of the mob is dead. They just floating around. They junkies. They turn into junkies. They go around doing petty crimes. You know, these people are basically dysfunctional. 1865, when Lee surrendered to Grant, they'll talk to you about, you know, how dignified he rode in and, you know, surrendered and signed the papers over. What they don't tell you in the history books that you can find out yourself is the Confederacy, they sent these people home. You know, you had to turn in your muskets, you had to turn in your weapons, and they sent you home. The leaders of the Confederacy, they detained. They locked them up for a year or two. And when they locked these people up, after a year or two, they made them sign papers saying that they would never rise against the United States again. They'll never take up arms against the United States again. And they can never go back into government.
Now, like I said, I wanted to show you the prediction I had 4 years ago when I first started this show, because I seen it coming. I see trouble, like I see trouble people, and I see trouble coming a mile away. You know, whether it's females, guys, people you hang with, family members, I see it. Like, I don't know how. It's just like it's there. Like it's an aura around people. I seen this. Donald Trump is riding off the backs of the Confederacy, and his people, his forefathers wasn't even a part of the Confederacy. Basically what they did was they took and combined Nazism and the bigotry of the Confederacy. That's why you got neo-Nazis. They took the Nazism and then they took the rebel flag, combined it, and they just got hatred in their heart for minorities. And half of these people are black Latinos. It's crazy, but it's happening. It's happening right now. And if Donald Trump was to somehow get back in office, I doubt it, because just like I see it, they have think tanks in Washington. These are very powerful thinkers. They do the war games. These think tanks in Washington, they see trouble coming for the Constitution. They know the Constitution is not a perfect paper. It's one of the best constitutions on the planet, but it's not a perfect paper. And Donald Trump and his minions, I call them minions, he's like I want to say he's like the Joker, and his buddy Giuliani is like the Penguin. These people are not even. Giuliani is he's an Italian. Yeah, he locked up Italians, but he's an Italian. Like I said, it's you gotta go back and get into the history of this stuff. These people went from immigrants selling potatoes on the side of the streets of New York. They were already poor, living in the ghettos with black people. When the Great Depression hit, they saw a way to rise up, and they did it. They rose up. They became studio executives. They put their kids in law school. They started major motion pictures. All of these people are not the original racist bigots that kept us in slavery. Go back and look at the history. These people are dangerous though. Because like I said, they've combined the Nazism of Adolf Hitler's Germany with the Confederacy bigotry, and they've made a new monster that's going to destroy this country. It's going to destroy it. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what I saw in court, how Trump's lawyers is trying to say he has immunity even if he was to kill somebody. The only way that they can convict him in a court of law is if the Congress was to impeach him first. This is what I said when I said the Constitution is not a perfect document. These people have went in and trying to find loopholes. And these loopholes is going to be dangerous for minorities if the judges go for this stuff. So we're gonna talk more about this and Nikki Haley, because my prediction is Nikki Haley is about to be the next big thing. She's a dangerous woman because she also has bigotry in her heart. But I'm gonna tell you something. She's not a goofball like Donald Trump. She's gonna be dangerous.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
The Republican presidential primary field is filled with so many extreme candidates that former South Carolina governor and former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, is seen as the moderate of the bunch. But yesterday, we got a reminder of what moderate means among the Republican presidential candidates these days.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do.
Actually, Governor, it was an incredibly easy question. Unfortunately for Haley, her response conspicuously lacked the only correct answer.
In the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
Welcome back, people. I do my breaks in between segments for a reason. I have my show on other platforms, and I have to have space. Even though I don't have commercials on YouTube exactly, I have to have space for iHeartRadio and other platforms that might put a commercial on my videos. So I always make sure that I put some kind of break in there. That way I know exactly where to place. I can go back on my old shows and place a specific commercial or something like that to get monetized. So that's why I have my breaks. But Nikki Haley's dangerous, people. Make no mistake about it. She's dangerous. I looked into her background just like I looked into Trump. Trump's grandfather was a pimp, moved out west, came back to New York, had Trump's father. Trump's father took some of that dirty money and turned into a real estate mogul, passed it on to Donald Trump. These people were immigrants. Nikki Haley, same way. This lady is an American and she's white. She can pass for a normal white woman out of South Carolina, but Nikki Haley is not her family is not originally from this country. These people have picked up the mantle of bigotry because they know the poor white people who used to be the former great grandsons and granddaughters of slave owners like this. Understand how they playing this. They love this stuff. So you got these foreigners talking bad about other foreigners, talking bad about minorities to get the votes of white people who are the descendants of the original slave masters. The original slave masters like Byrd, old man Byrd that they tried to kick out of Congress years ago, he wound up dying and all that. All of them people are a non-factor. Racism now has taken up a whole new shade and tone of people, but they white people. They just not natural. They just not like us. You know, we might be African Americans if that's what you want to call it, but you know, we Americans now. We were born here. So are they. But they're trying to take the mantle of the slave masters and stick their chests out fighting for them, but their forefathers wasn't even nowhere around. Look at the Rashid Swami guy. Look at this guy. His people are Indian. You know, this is some crazy stuff. But I seen it coming. Let's look a little further into this Nikki Haley.
Here she was on a New Hampshire radio show this morning.
Of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it. What I was saying was, what does it mean to us today? What it means to us today is about freedom. That's what that was all about. It was about individual freedom. It was about economic freedom. It was about individual rights.
You see how she's trying to go around the subject? You see how she's trying to go around the subject of slavery by saying it was about individual rights? Lady, plain and simple, it was about slavery. And let's go a little deeper into that, because I'm going to give y'all some history facts. Abraham Lincoln really wasn't concerned about the slaves, but he got a tidbit of information letting him know that if a civil war starts, he need to free the slaves. I read that a long time ago. I think I was reading a biography or listening to an audio book of the times in that era where I'm gonna find that manuscript. I'm gonna look it up. But I was reading or listening to an audio book about the Civil War times and how Lincoln had got the idea from Europe that you can't fight against an army that has slave labor. If you free the slaves, now they have an enemy within their midst. Understand how this is going. It was already economic strife between the North and the South anyway. And it was about to come to a head. I think a senator beat another senator half to death with a cane during that time. You know, like I said, I dive deep into this history. We're going to take one more commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about this court case, because this court case has deep implications for what's about to come if Donald Trump is successful. If he's successful with this court case, any president can send somebody to come get you and hurt you or your family, and nothing you can do about it. We'll be back.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6.
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that.
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes, no.
I'm going to stop that right there. Welcome back, people. What you listening to, because they don't have cameras in the federal court system, what you're listening to is judges on the appeals court arguing with Donald Trump's lawyer about whether he can be prosecuted or not, because at the time he was doing his criminal acts, he was president. This case is very important, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. This is a very important case because I'm gonna put it to you like this. If he wins this case, any president that comes along after Joe Biden can literally come into your home, if you're a black homeowner, a black farmer, move you out of your home on presidential orders. And if you don't, these people can literally move you out of your home and force you somewhere else. You know, if the president has Congress on his side, like say both Congress and the House, the Senate and the House, he can literally bring back slavery. And if you try to fight against it, he can send the Marines in and do something to you. All the political leaders that's black in the black community, the black leaders, he can have them assassinated immediately. And stick his chest out and say, yeah, I gave the order. There's nothing anybody can do about it, even when he leaves office. This is one of the most important court cases that has came around since stuff like you know, Brown and you know, all of the major court cases that changed the landscape of the abortion, the integration into schools and things like that. This court case is so important, and I don't see a lot of people even talking about it. Like when I seen this, when I heard that judge ask this man, so you saying if the SEAL team was given the order by the president to go in and assassinate somebody like Joe Biden or a senator, he can't be prosecuted unless he's impeached? What if the Congress is a Republican like him? They're not going to impeach him. This is what this man is saying. This is crazy. I'm talking about crazy. I want y'all to listen to the rest of this.
Yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
So your answer is
is
no.
my answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate. In these exceptional cases, as the OLC memo itself points out from the Department of Justice, you'd expect a speedy impeachment and conviction. But what the founders are much more worried about than using criminal prosecution to discipline presidents was what James Madison calls in Federalist Number 47, the newfangled and artificial treasons. They were much more concerned about the abuse of the criminal process for political purposes to disable the presidency from factions and political opponents. And of course,
I'm gonna stop there right there. Gobbity, 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 goop, gobbity, goop, gobbity, goop, gobbity, goop, gobbity, goop. This guy is basically trying to bombard these judges with all kinds of legalese. That's what he's doing. He's trying to bombard them with all kinds of stuff. And the woman asked him a straight up question. Are you saying if the president gave an order to SEAL Team 6 to go in and kill one of his political rivals, he could not be prosecuted? Simple yes or no question. He's trying to fill all of this space up with all kinds of garbage. This is serious, people. And like I said in the beginning of the show, they never cut the head off the snake of the Confederacy. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been racism in this country, okay? Listen carefully. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be racism in America. But the level to the point where it's infiltrated the northern cities, you can see rebel flags all the way up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin fought for the Union. You can go to upstate New York. I've driven my truck to New Hampshire and Connecticut and have passed by people's houses with an American flag and a Confederate flag hanging out on their front porch. We wouldn't have had this level of bigotry inside of our political system, because even though those people couldn't get back into governmental roles, they taught their kids, and then they kids grew up getting into government. Then the Great Depression hit. A lot of their kids started meeting these Argentinian white women, German white women. World War I and World War II came around. Then they legalized alcohol and all the speakeasies. See, this is another show. You got to go back on some of my old stuff. Some of the speakeasies that they had that was illegal, once they legalized alcohol, a lot of the Italians became mega rich. They didn't have to bootleg liquor anymore. They became mega rich. So they started blending in, marrying into the families of some of these Confederacy people, because all of these people are still Caucasian. But a lot of the people that's in power, that got all this bigotry in their heart, they're not the original slave owners. Let's continue on, because like I said, this case right here is very important.
That's exactly what we see in this case.
I've asked you a series of hypotheticals about criminal actions that could be taken by a president and could be considered official acts. And I've asked you, would such a president be subject to criminal prosecution if he's not impeached or convicted?
Requirement.
And your answer, your yes or no answer is no.
I believe I said qualified yes if he's impeached and convicted first.
My question was, okay, so he's not impeached or convicted. Let's put that aside. You're saying a president could sell pardons, could sell military secrets, could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival.
Sale of military secrets strikes me as something that might not be held to be an official act. The sale of pardons is something that's come up historically and was not prosecuted.
But your brief says that communicating with an executive branch agency is an official act, and communicating with a foreign government is an official act. That's what presidents do.
They're very strong situation. There's very strong examples of potential official acts. If you look at what Chief Justice Mitchell said against Madison, he said, rising directly under Article 2, Section 1, that the courts, that the president's official acts are, quote, never examinable by the courts. And he says it like 4 different times on pages 164 to 166.
Well, let me ask you about that then, counsel, because your position is, as I understand it, if a president is impeached and convicted by Congress, then he is subject to criminal prosecution, correct?
Yeah, be it necessary, said to prosecution.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore he's not completely and absolutely immune, because under the procedure that you concede, he can be prosecuted if there's an impeachment and conviction by the Senate.
Very, very formidable structural check against the astonishing radical action of prosecuting a former president with official acts.
Correct, but you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances.
Specifically, if they're impeached and convicted, I think that's the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause.
And isn't that also a concession that a president can be criminally prosecuted for an official act? Because presidents can be impeached for official acts.
Under those unique circumstances.
Correct. But given that you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances, doesn't that narrow the issues before us to, can a president be impeached? Can a president be prosecuted without first being impeached and convicted? All of your other arguments seem to fall away. Your separation of powers arguments fall away. Your policy arguments fall away if you concede that a president can be criminally prosecuted under some circumstances.
Again, people, that is these appeal court judges, all 3 female, talking to Trump's lawyer about immunity. And this should scare the bejesus out of a lot of people, especially if you're a minority. Even when it comes to Joe Biden is president right now. So, I mean, think about this, people. If Trump don't realize, if he loses this case, and they say that, yes, SEAL Team 6 can go in and do something to somebody on the orders of the president, and nothing can happen, Joe Biden can literally call up SEAL Team 6 and say, hey, go in at Trump Tower or go down to Mar-a-Lago and get Trump. Put him in chains. And they can do it. And no matter how much you ride in the streets, if you're a MAGA, no matter how much you ride in the streets, there's nothing can be done about it. This is going to have deep implications all the way across the board. I can't even see how the judges would even consider something like this. This is dangerous. We pushing towards that cliff of dictatorship. This is the Daily Read, and I just wanted to bring that to the forefront. Like I said, go back and watch the old predictions. My predictions for this year will be Nikki Haley against Biden, because Donald Trump is too dangerous. But saying that, he's a goofball, which probably makes him worse, because at least Nikki Haley is more conscious of her racism. Some people would think that she's more dangerous, but I beg to differ, because the steps she moves, the steps she makes, she's going to try to stay within the bounds of the law. And we can fight against that with the law. Donald Trump is not going to do that. This is the Daily Read, and I'm out.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.